This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Today, the UN Security Council passes a US resolution backing Biden's Gaza ceasefire plan. Apple announces ChatGPT for iPhones, and the AfD expels Maximilian Krah. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Tuesday, the 11th of June, 2024. Yesterday, the United Nations Security Council passed a US resolution backing President Joe Biden's Gaza ceasefire plan. Proposed by Biden last week, the deal has three phases. The first 6 weeks would include a full ceasefire, a withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza's populated areas, the release of a number of hostages by Hamas in exchange for the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners, and a surge in humanitarian assistance. Through Phase 1, Israel and Hamas would negotiate Phase 2, which would aim to achieve a permanent end to hostilities. Though if negotiations took longer than the 6 weeks of Phase 1, then the ceasefire would continue as long as negotiations do. Phase 2 would also include the release of all remaining living hostages and a full withdrawal of Israeli forces. The UN resolution makes clear that the territory of Gaza must not be reduced in size during this period. Phase 3 would see the beginning of a major reconstruction plan for Gaza and the return of any final remains of deceased hostages. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met senior leaders in Egypt and Israel yesterday in an attempt to press both parties to support the deal. Hamas responded to the resolution quickly, saying they accept the UN resolution and that they're ready to negotiate. The Israeli government did not respond as quickly to the resolution, which is not surprising considering that they're currently facing a political crisis with the resignation of top cabinet members. The cabinet have also disagreed publicly over Biden's ceasefire deal. The more centrist elements of Israel's war cabinet, like Benny Gantz, pushed Netanyahu to secure a ceasefire and hostage release deal. But over the weekend, Gantz quit the government, citing Netanyahu's leadership and the absence of a day-after plan for Gaza. This move has made Netanyahu more dependent on his far-right ministers, like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, who have explicitly rejected Biden's proposal. They specifically took issue with an explicit rejection to establishing an Israeli buffer zone in Gaza. However, the US addressed these concerns and dropped the rejection. This has seemingly satisfied Israel enough, as Israeli representatives at yesterday's meeting avoided criticizing the resolution. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Benjamin Burnett, then consider joining the new TLDR membership program for just $1.99. In its Worldwide Developers Conference held in California yesterday, Apple announced a number of new features that will come to their physical products in the near future. One of the largest of these is a commitment to introduce something that they're calling Apple Intelligence, which they claim will make navigating their devices easier. Apple Intelligence will not be a single app. It will instead permeate a number of different apps on iPhone and iPads, with it helping people write messages or even helping to plot routes. In the announcement, Tim Cook made clear that this would happen alongside an update to Siri. It was also announced that this was all possible thanks to a partnership between Apple and OpenAI, the company that develops ChatGPT. While there's been some positive reactions about the deal, not everyone is impressed. Following the announcement, Apple's share price fell 1.91%. Additionally, Elon Musk criticized the deal, saying that Apple has no clue what's actually going on once they hand your data over to OpenAI. He added, "They're going to sell you down the river." At the time of writing, Apple has not yet responded to the allegations. Germany's far-right party, the Alternative for Deutschland, or AfD, has expelled its lead candidate Maximilian Krah from its EU Parliament delegation, in a move sources say is intended to appease Marine Le Pen and persuade her to allow the AfD back into the EU's far-right bloc. It comes after the AfD earned 15 MEPs in the European elections last week, although they'll now move forward with 14. However, the AfD is currently isolated in the EU Parliament chamber, having been kicked out of Le Pen's Identity and Democracy group following controversial comments by Krah last month. For context, a few weeks ago, Krah implied in an interview that not all members of Hitler's SS were criminals. His comment sparked immediate backlash, and he was forced to resign from his role on the AfD's executive committee. The EU's ID group then voted to expel all of its AfD MEPs, leaving the party politically stranded. So how might the AfD's latest move affect things? Well, a party source told the Financial Times that the decision to expel Krah, whom the sources described as toxic, was an attempt to send a message to Le Pen. The AfD appears to be hedging its bets on readmission to the ID bloc, who, if they chose to readmit the AfD, would increase their total seats from 58 to 72, only one less than the right-wing European Conservatives and Reformists. We'll have to watch this closely over the coming weeks to see which alliances are formed on the European right. In news from the Korean Peninsula, South Korean troops fired warning shots on Sunday after North Korean troops accidentally crossed the border, according to the South Korean military. The incident on Sunday, which occurred around 12:30 p.m. local time, saw a number of North Korean soldiers carrying pickaxes and other tools engaged in unspecified work north of the border cross over the demarcation line and enter the south. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said that they did not think the breach of the border was intentional, because the area in question is densely forested and not obviously marked, and added that the soldiers headed north immediately after our military's warning broadcasts and warning shots. While the incident is considered to be an accident and now resolved, it comes at a time of tenser relations than usual between the two neighbouring countries. North Korea has recently sent thousands of balloons carrying rubbish and manure across the border into South Korea, allegedly in retaliation for propaganda campaigns by northern defectors and South Koreans who send anti-North Korea leaflets and other items across the border using balloons. In response to the so-called trash balloons, South Korea has resumed broadcasting propaganda across the border using loudspeakers, resumed military activities around the border, and suspended a 2018 military pact with North Korea. And finally, in some uplifting news, after an absence of about 200 years, a group of wild horses, known as Tarki horses, have returned to the steppe grasslands of their native Kazakhstan. The species of wild horse was driven to the edge of extinction, but populations have survived in zoos over the years. The 7 horses, 4 from Berlin and 3 from Prague, were flown to Kazakhstan, where they were released into the wild, and are the first of 40 of the endangered species to be released in the Central Asian country over the next 5 years. The Association of Conservation of Biodiversity in Kazakhstan said, "This is the moment we've been waiting for a very long time." Now, understanding exactly what has or is going to happen here can be a little tricky, requiring you to evaluate lots of information from different, often partial sources. It would be sensible then to begin improving your critical thinking skills so that you can keep sharp and better understand what's going on. And well, our sponsor Brilliant.org can help you do just that. Brilliant is the online learning platform that's designed specifically to teach you everything from maths, data analysis, programming, and AI from the ground up. You don't need a fancy degree or to have dedicated hundreds of hours to studying any of these. All you need is a device with an internet connection and a few spare minutes a day. And with your spare few minutes, you'll learn by actually doing, with Brilliant providing hands-on lessons that let you play around with concepts, a method that has been shown to be 6 times more effective than just watching lectures. What makes this even better is that this content is created by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from MIT, Caltech, Duke, Microsoft, and more. You can try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days. Just click on the link in the description. That way you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription.